First up, Creeping Chill. Stasis weapon final blows against slowed or frozen targets release a burst that slows. Next up, Overload Sword. Pretty straightforward. Next up, Blade Stamina. Rapidly defeating combatants with a sword refunds ammo. Argent Blade. While you have armor charge, dealing damage with a sword consumes an armor charge and empowers your sword for a short time, granting it bonus damage and energy charge rate. Expanding Abyss. Void sources deal increased damage to weakened targets. Alright, so first one up is going to be the Titan. Exotic, we're going to be using Stronghold. Gives you massive damage resistance when you're blocking with a sword. And after damaging a target coming out of a block, you're going to gain Restoration ×2. For our sword, I recommend the False Idols from the Pale Heart, but I've yet to get it crafted as I've been slacking. So today I'm going to be using the Abide the Return. Anything with Incandescent is going to be your friend. For fragments, we're going to want to use Ember of Mercy, Ember of Hyperion, Ember of Torches, and Ember of Searing. For our aspects on the Titan, we want to use Sol Invictus, and we want to use Roaring Flames. And for our grenade, we're going to be using Firebolt Grenade. This is going to apply Scorch stacks to targets, so that when you're killing guys, all those guys that die, they're going to be creating sunspots from Sol Invictus. Sol Invictus is going to reset your restoration ×2 every time you touch one of those sunspots. Those sunspot kills are going to increase the damage of your Firebolt Grenade as you get your next. Now this Titan build is extremely strong. The healing and the tankiness of Stronghold is unkillable. And the damage resistance on Stronghold makes you be able to tank a Tormentor if you really want. Mind you, it doesn't do the best damage. Moving on, we're going to be keeping the weapons loadout the same. But for our exotic this time, we're going to be switching to the Wishful Ignorance. Gain an additional Frenzied Blade charge. Frenzied Blade and Fletchet Storm briefly increase their damage with each strike. And pulses from your Banner of War return melee energy based on the number of allies healed. We're going to be combining this obviously with Fletchet of Storm, and we're also going to be using Banner of War. And we're also going to be using the Grapple Grenade so we can just kind of swing in, get a bunch of melee kills, and immediately start Banner of War. For our fragments, we want to use Thread of Propagation, Thread of Generation, Thread of Continuity, and Thread of Warding. Now with this loop, you're going to start off combat by sliding and casting 1 or 2 of your Fletchet Storms to get a kill and start Banner of War. And then you can go in with your grapple and get a melee kill. Banner of War is going to buff that melee from your grapple, and then just start going crazy with your sword. Your sword kills are going to increase your Banner of War stacks, which is going to heal you, and your sword is going to be doing even more damage. This build is extremely fun and is also extremely versatile on the Titan. Alright, now moving on to the Hunter. The first one we're going to focus on is going to be my favorite build, which is the Strand Moth Keepers build. The exotic we're going to be using today is the Moth Keepers Wraps. Your grenade becomes a cage of loyal moths that release on impact and fly towards the nearest target or ally. If they reach a target, they detonate in a blinding explosion, which stuns Unstoppables. If they reach an ally, they grant an overshield. Now for our subclass, we're going to be using Whirling Maelstrom. We're also going to be using Threaded Spectre. And for our grenade, we're going to be using Grapple because it's the lowest cooldown grenade, which is going to give us our moths even faster. Our weapons are going to stay the same for this loadout. And now with this build, you're going to have Beyblades that are going to be clearing the room for you. You're going to throw your moths, which are going to give you an overshield, blind targets. You're going to go in with your sword. You're going to be freezing targets. Dodge when you get in a little bit of a pinch. Enemies will shoot at your fake guy while you go in with your sword, and your Threaded Spectres will be killing guys for you as well. Now moving on to the other Hunter loadout that we have today is going to be focusing on the Bombardiers. Dodging leaves behind an explosion that detonates after a short delay. We're going to be using the Stasis subclass with this, so dodging is going to leave behind a slowing burst. Now we're going to stack this with the sword with the Strategist and Cold Steel roll, where every single kill is going to give us more of our class ability back. Now on top of this, we're going to be running the Grim Harvest aspect, where defeating a slowed or frozen target creates stasis shards. Those shards that you pick up are going to give you frost armor. Our other aspect is going to be Winter Shroud, where dodging slows nearby targets, and slowing targets briefly increases your class ability regeneration. So as you can see, we're really building into just spamming our dodges and freezing and slowing everything around us. For fragments, we're going to want to be using Whisper of Rime, Whisper of Chains, Whisper of Durance, Whisper of Conduction, and Whisper of Refraction. For our grenade, we're going to be using Duskfield Grenade to apply even more slowing and freezing stacks in our area of effect. Now this setup is pretty straightforward. You basically are just going to be spamming your dodge and spamming sword attacks. Everything is going to freeze and shatter. Throw your grenades here and there. Throw your super if you need it. But really, you can just rotate back and forth between a couple sword kills and a dodge. A couple sword kills and a dodge. Okay, now last but definitely not least, we have the Warlock. And this arc build was a little crazy. We're going to be using the Vesper of Radius chest piece, where your rifts periodically release arc shockwaves, and final blows with these shockwaves create an arc explosion. While you have an arc super equipped, the shockwaves and subsequent explosions blind nearby targets, and your rift energy recharges even faster when you're surrounded by targets. The sword I decided to use with this build is the Half-Truths, mainly because it's an arc sword, which I'm going to tell you exactly why in a second. Because we're going to be using the Spark of Beacon's Arc Fragment, which while you're amplified, your arc special or heavy ammo weapon final blows create a blinding explosion. For aspects, we'll be using Arc Soul for our rifts, Lightning Surge so that you can go in, slide, use your melee, immediately get jolted and amplified. For our grenade, we're going to be using Flashbang Grenade to cause even more blinding. Other fragments are going to be Spark of Haste, Spark of Feedback, and Spark of Shock. Now this build was pretty strong, I'm not going to lie, and it was pretty fun. Alright, now lastly, we have a Void Warlock build, which is going to be using the Briar Binds exotic. Now the sword that I decided to use with the setup was the other half, mainly because it's a Void sword, and because it has Eager Edge, so I can kind of just get around a little faster as if I was on an art class or something. For aspects, we're going to be using Feed the Void, defeat a target with a Void ability to activate Devour. We're also going to be using Child of the Old Gods so that we can get that Void Oversoul off our Rift. For grenade, we're going to be using the Magnetic Grenade. It's the lowest cooldown grenade, and it's very easy to use. For fragments, we're going to be using Echo of Vigilance, Echo of Harvest, Echo of Undermining, and Echo of Starvation. Now with this setup, you basically want to cast your Rift, shoot out your Oversoul towards the targets, and then go in with your Eager Edge. Killing targets will give you an overshield if you're running Repulsor Brace. And then keep the cycle up of grabbing your Void Soul, throwing at a next group of targets, flying in with your sword, kill all those guys, get your Devour going, get your Void Overshield, grab your next Oversoul, and throw it towards the next group of targets. I hope you guys enjoyed all these builds. I tried to put together a bunch of builds for all the classes that didn't require anything. And if you guys want to see more ideas and builds like this, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. It's Egg Sandwich time.